was an issue that we had talked about for like Friday, couldn't approach the site.
Yeah, you're going to walk up. I think my walk up for sure.
This down, I forgot it.
Okay.
Okay. Good idea. Okay. You would have problems staying the same 5 o'clock on days such as today. If I have a problem with that.
We call Larry Strachan, Your Honor. Here it is.
He'll raise your right hand. Do you swear to affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay.
So will you tell us your name, please?
My name is Larry Strachan.
Spell Strachan for the jury.
Strachan.
And what do you do, Mr. Strachan?
I'm a hotel manager.
Where do you work now?
I'm currently at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites in Antioch.
And did you used to work for the Nashville Marriott Hotel?
I did.
What were the years you worked there?
I worked there from 2005 to 2010.
And when you first started, were you the executive housekeeper?
I was.
And did your job change after that sometime?
It did.
What did you become?
I was promoted to Director of Operations.
And were you beneath the manager of the hotel in the chain of command, or?
I did report to the General Manager of the hotel, yes, sir.
Okay. And then you were in charge, though, of operations.
I was in charge of mainly the rooms division, and then I worked in conjunction with the executive chef on the food and beverage side.
Now, do you still, as a result of your experience at the Nashville Marriott, have a memory of the general layout of the floors?
I do.
Okay, do you have a screen in front of you there?
I do.
All right, I'm going to show you. You can draw like that with your finger, okay?
Okay.
Show the jury from your memory what the general layout of the 10th floor was, just from your memory. Use a different color. Let's try different colors. That's going to be hard to see.
Okay.
You see where we got the option there?
Okay.
Try yellow or green. There you go. All right, now, where would the elevators be?
The elevators were right there.
Now, do you recall where room 1051 was?
I do.
You do? Where was it?
It was right about there.
Okay. And you did that from your memory?
I'm sorry?
You did that from your memory?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, a diagram of the 10th floor. Does that look accurate?
It's not proportional, but yes, it's in the general shape. Yes.
I mean, it's not bad.
No, it's much longer.
Well, the hallway is much longer.
Well, yes. The way you have the main corridor, you have it compressed to fit on the page, but it's actually much longer.
Okay, and we'll show a video of it.
Okay.
And you can explain to the jury, but Your Honor, could we mark this as the next exhibit? Number 3. And move towards admission in that. So admitted. And Your Honor, I'm going to ask copies to the jury. This is an enlargement, essentially, of that diagram, all right?
Yes, sir.
Now, do you know that Erin Andrews stayed in room 1051?
I do. Yes, sir.
Do you know that a man called Barrett stayed in 1049
Yes, sir, I do.
at the same time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's show the video now. I want you to watch this video from the beginning. I'm going to pause you right there. Is that looking this way now?
Yes, sir. You're looking from basically from the doorway of 1015 down that short corridor.
Okay. That's showing that way. Okay, let's go ahead and move it forward a little. Let's go back a little bit, Jason. Go back to the long corridor. All right, pause there. Now, the jury is looking down this way, right?
Yes, sir.
And what they see down there at the end is 1043, the door there, right?
I would believe so. Yes, sir.
Okay, now let's go ahead with the video. Now this is where the camera's turning to the right, correct? Stop there.
Correct. Now you're looking down the corridor, essentially from in front of room 1039 down that short corridor.
So we're looking this way now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead. Pause it there. And now we're looking into this alcove. Right here.
Yes, sir.
It has two walls there.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. It's 1051. Now the camera's going to turn to the right. And pause that. Now it's looking out from inside the alcove. Looking this way, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go ahead. I'm going to look inside the room, 1051. Okay, that looked like 1051?
Looked like a standard room. Yes, sir.
All right. Now, did you help train hotel employees?
When I was the executive housekeeper, I spent more time doing training with new hires. When I was promoted to director of operations, that was left more to the department managers, but I would also help train new managers. Yes, sir.
Okay. And you had certain expectations of hotel employees in your job, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And was it standard at your hotel that employees use common sense?
Yes, sir.
They were supposed to use common sense, weren't they?
Yes, sir, but as we all know, common sense isn't always common. But yes, we would assume they use common sense.
And you also taught them to be careful in everything that you did. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And that that was a standard you expected of each employee was to be careful.
Yes, sir.
That included front desk personnel.
Yes, sir.
And then I want to show you some more standards and ask you about these. Go ahead. Do you agree that in 2008, a standard was the hotel must train its employees that safety is always first?
Safety was always on the forefront of our minds, yes. I wouldn't say it was first, but it was always on the forefront, that we always needed to be safe whatever we were doing.
Always mindful of safety.
Yes.
All right, next slide. Do you agree that the hotel standard was the hotel must train its employees carefully about guest safety and protection?
I'm sorry, what's the question again?
It's what this says right there. Do you agree that the standard was the hotel must train its employees carefully about guest safety and protection?
It is the hotel's responsibility to train our employees on guest safety, yes.
Do you agree with this standard?
I agree with the statement, yes, sir.
Go ahead. Do you agree with this standard? The hotel must protect the guest's safety first before granting another guest a favor.
We must always protect the guest's privacy. Guest safety, yes. I mean, I would say yes to guest safety, but back then we focused on guest privacy. If you're talking about back in 2008, we always talked about guest privacy. Guest safety was always discussed, but back in 2008, we always talked about guest privacy.
All right, we'll come to that a little bit later. Let's go to the next slide. Would you agree with this? I want you to read that to yourself first. First, ask yourself, is this not a common sense yes answer? The hotel must not grant the request of one guest if that request could endanger another guest.
I would say yes. I do agree with that statement. Yes, sir.
And that's a standard, isn't it?
It is in relation to this case. Yes, sir.
All right, next slide. Do you agree that the standard is the hotel must never unnecessarily endanger a guest?
Yes, sir. I agree with this statement.
And the next one. Do you agree that the hotel must never let profits become more important than guest safety?
This is a two-edged sword that I don't think I'm qualified to answer because I didn't control the budget of the hotel. There's always profit margins you have to manage, and there's always a certain level of expectation that we were required to bring to the bottom line. I don't know how to answer that question, quite honestly.
Well, you're kind of in the middle, I guess.
Yes.
I understand that. You felt pressure from above to make money. True.
Judge Gore, meeting. Restate your question.
Did you feel some pressure from above? You mentioned the bottom line. The bottom line is profit, right?
Yes, sir.
That's what you're talking about. And the people above you wanted to make sure the bottom line was good. Is that fair?
Yes, sir. There was a certain amount of, back then, there was a certain level, a certain expectation that was for money earmarked for loss prevention and security, and we met the standards at that time. But to answer this question, profits should never be more important than guest safety. So I would personally have to agree with this statement then.
Okay, and the next slide. Do you agree that this was a standard? If the hotel is too busy to protect each guest, it should hire extra people.
Well, the hotel's not in a business to protect its guest in the sense that every guest needs protection. We should ensure that our guests have a certain level of safety, and they should feel a certain level of safety in their rooms and in the building and in the corridors. I honestly don't like the word protect, because it kind of creates the impression that they're in need of protection in our hotel. At that particular location, it was a really safe environment. We sat on the university, the Vanderbilt University campus, and West End was a very prominent area, and still is a very prominent area. So the word protect, it creates the impression that our guests were in danger all the time, and they were not in danger at our hotel.
You're saying that no guest at your hotel was ever subject to a potential crime inside the hotel? Is that the way you all put it?
No, sir. There was a certain level of expectation in regards to all the doors needed to be able to be locked, that the guests could always secure themselves inside the room if they felt they were in danger, that their credit card information and their privacy was remain private, and that if they needed an escort, they were provided an escort. The way this statement reads, it reads like the hotel was in a dangerous neighborhood, and it was not in a dangerous neighborhood, and it is not in a dangerous neighborhood. But yes, every guest should feel a sense of safety and security at all times.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. And here's the standard. The hotel's employees must use common sense. You agree with that?
I agree with that statement, yes, sir. Your Honor, may I have some water?
Let me ask you this, Mr. Strachan.
Yes, sir.
Were there...
Thank you, sir.
Got a little warm.
Yes, and I feel like I've got cotton mouth. Yes, sir.
Drink all you want.
I'm good. Thank you, sir.
Were there days and nights at the hotel when it was not full?
Yes, sir. More times than we liked.
Of course. And let's take a day in February, wintertime. You know, it snows around here sometimes.
Occasionally, yes, sir.
And it can get icy.
Yes, sir.
And flights can get canceled for potential guests that are going to come in. And the roads can be bad, and a lot of guests just can't arrive, right?
Yes, sir.
And you can have a hotel that was going to be maybe half booked, suddenly down to 20% or something like that. That could happen.
Yes, sir.
It did happen.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about this hotel and the following situation. If a woman was in 1051, it was not Erin Andrews, okay? But you all put her in 1051. We'll call her Sally Johnson. It's just a name I'm using. I'm sure there's some Sally Johnsons out there, but let's just pick that up. Sally Johnson is in room 1051. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The roads are icy. It's been snowing. Flights are canceled. Guests not getting there. And Sally Johnson is up there. There may not be but 1 or 2 people on this floor. Besides her, okay?
Yes, sir.
And if, at about 8 o'clock that night, a man walks into the hotel and says to the front desk, I want to be next to Sally Johnson, what would your front desk people do?
And we're talking about back in 2008?
We're talking about 2008.
Back in 2008, it's very possible they might have accommodated the request.
That would be consistent with the policy at this hotel to accommodate that man who came in off the street and said, I want to be next to Sally Johnson, right?
Yes, sir.
Not even call Sally Johnson, right?
Back in 2008, yes, sir.
Just stick this man who came in off the street back in this alcove next to Sally Johnson without ever asking her, do you want this man next to you? That was your policy, wasn't it?
That was the standard, yes, sir.
Well, we'll see if it's the standard, but it was your policy at that hotel, right?
Our policy was to accommodate as many guest requests as we could, sir.
Now, let's switch gears a minute. Talk about security personnel. There were times at this hotel, the Vanderbilt football team would stay in your hotel.
Yes, sir.
And there might be, what, how many, 60, 50 rooms or so?
50 or so rooms, yes, sir.
These are the players, right?
The players and the coaches, yes, sir.
And if the Vanderbilt football team was staying there, your hotel would hire extra security guards for them.
That was contracted that was negotiated through the contract with Vanderbilt, yes, sir. They required that we provide additional security to maintain quiet on their floor and to make sure people weren't being ushered in or out after curfew.
They didn't want unwanted people up there.
Yes, sir.
Check for me. Rephrase your question to me.
Okay. Were you familiar with the fact that ESPN requested 60 rooms at your hotel back in September 2008?
I knew there was a block of rooms with ESPN. I didn't really know the exact number, but I knew that there was a block of rooms with ESPN. Yes, sir.
Do you remember that it was going to be the Vanderbilt South Carolina football game?
I didn't recall which game it was because it was so long ago, but if you say it was a South Carolina game, I would be inclined to believe you.
Do you remember that this was a big deal?
It was a big deal because I believe that was the weekend we had game day at Vanderbilt, so I believe it was a big deal.
And this was a Thursday, September 4th. This game was on Thursday night.
And I believe, I believe it was game day on Thursday. I'm not real sure, but it was a big deal. It was nationally televised, I believe.
And the hotel was going to be full.
Yes, sir.
And the security that your hotel provided then was one security guard from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Is that right?
I believe that is what we had scheduled that night. Yes, sir.
And you had nobody, no security guard in that hotel from 7 a.m. on September 4th to 11 p.m. on that day. You had nobody in there.
That is a fair statement. Yes, sir. We did not have a security officer on property during that time.
And let's talk about the cameras, security cameras. Where were the security cameras in this hotel in 2008?
excuse me. I believe the security cameras at that time were pointed towards all the entrances and exits of the hotel, as well as over the front desk. And possibly down the corridors of the meeting rooms, but I can't say for absolute sure, sir.
Well, there were no cameras on the floors where guests.
I do not recall. No, sir. I don't believe there were any cameras on the floors.
Well, first you said I don't recall, but
I don't believe there were. No, sir. I don't recall.
you knew that, and there were no cameras at the elevators.
If that was what I said during my deposition, then I would stand by that. I don't recall at this point, but I don't recall there being any cameras facing the elevators. No, sir.
And the 10th floor is called the Concierge floor.
Yes, sir.
And that takes a key to get up there, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
And if a man says, a man called Barrett says, I went up to the 10th floor, and doesn't say that he had a key to the 10th floor yet, he really couldn't get there just by going up the elevator, could he?
No, sir. Not unless he rode the elevator with somebody who had a key to access that floor.
And if he doesn't describe that happened, then he had no way to get to the 10th floor, did he?
Because his reservation was booked on the concierge level, he would have been granted access to the lounge if he requested access to the floor before his room was ready.
If he did that?
If he did that, yes, sir.
If he doesn't say he did that, then that would be a question for the jury to decide on.
Yes, sir.
I would go. Let's talk about the phones, the house phones in this hotel. The house phones did not have the LCD screen, did they?
No, sir, they did not.
So if Barrett said, I saw her room number on a house phone, that's just not accurate. He couldn't do that.
Correct. The house phones did not have displays where they could show room numbers or names.
Your role was being in charge of operations at the hotel. You worked with the FBI, didn't you?
During this investigation, yes, sir.
And you made statements to the FBI as a result of what you learned, didn't you?
I believe indirectly, yes, sir. I was the person in charge of doing all the investigating, and I was responsible for sharing that information, sharing my information with the general manager, and I believe the general manager, Brian Chakowski, was actually in direct contact with the FBI.
You told the general manager that you confirmed that Barrett had stayed there and had been in room 1049. Is that right?
Yes, sir. When we checked the history in our property management system, it verified he had been registered in 1049. Yes, sir.
And you also verified that he had requested the room next to Erin Andrews, and that information was available to the front desk agent.
Objection, Wayne.
Go ahead, sir.
The information that we saw in the history files indicated that he did request a room connecting or adjoining to a party, and we read into it that he was requesting Erin Andrews because it cut it off before it said where it wanted it to be, if I recall.
your hotel had more responsibilities to guests than simply providing them a hotel room. Did you?
We had lots of responsibilities for each and every guest. Every guest had different needs, but yes, we had a certain level of expectation for every single guest in the hotel. Yes, sir. Your Honor, may I have some more water, please? Thank you, sir.
That's all.
If you ever retire, I'll hire you. Yes, I'll give you a job. Thank you, sir.
Give me a second. Let me figure out how to turn it on. Good afternoon, Mr. Strachan.
Good afternoon.
How long have you lived in Nashville?
I moved here in 1994, so it'll be, that'd be math, 22 years in April.
And where did you move from?
I moved from Austin, Texas.
And what did you do in Austin, Texas before you moved here?
I worked for Marriott International at the Austin Capitol at the Marriott at the Marriott at the Capitol in Austin.
And you said you're currently the manager of the Holiday Inn and Suites in Antioch, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Holiday Inn Express, yes, sir.
And that managerial position, is that often referred to in the hotel industry as a general manager?
Yes, sir.
What does the position of a general manager entail?
I always used to refer to the general manager position as somebody who has a general knowledge of every area of the hotel. Makes us just enough to be dangerous in the hotel business. But
a jack of all trades.
A jack of all trades, just enough knowledge of every department. Yes, sir.
Okay. When you first took over that job there at the Holiday Inn, what was the status of that property?
It was closed. It had been gutted and was being refurbished and rebranded as a brand new Holiday Inn Express.
When you talk about branding, what in the hotel industry is referred to as a flag?
A flag is when a hotel takes on a name of a specific brand of hotel, as in the case of Marriott, as in the case of Holiday Inn Express. An owner can select a specific brand that he would like to have in his hotel because he feels that would be an appropriate clientele for the type of hotel he was providing. And
so the brand that's given in the case of the Vanderbilt Marriott would be Marriott, correct?
Yes, sir. That's what the owners wanted there, and they made sure that the building was designed appropriate to a Marriott flag, and that we provided all the amenities that Marriott required at the time.
And the entity that allows an owner, you're referring to them as an owner, to use a flag would be someone like Marriott International, correct?
Yes, sir. They would approach Marriott International. Yes, sir.
And then in this case, the owner of the Vanderbilt Marriott would be West End, correct?
I believe so. Yes, sir.
And during your time when you were working at the West End, at the Marriott Vanderbilt, Windsor Capital Group was the property manager, correct?
Correct. They were the management company that the employees worked for. Yes, sir.
Now, just a second ago, you mentioned about designing the hotel to meet Marriott requirements. Do franchisors, such as Marriott International or Holiday Inn, like the property you're in now, have requirements that individual hotel owners are required to meet?
Yes, sir.
And what can happen to a hotel that fails to meet the brand requirements?
If a hotel does not meet the brand standards and the brand requirements, they are put in danger of losing their flag, and if they continue to be in violation of the brand requirements, they will lose their flag.
And by losing their flag, they can no longer be called the Holiday Inn or the National Marriott at Vanderbilt, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, if I understood your testimony earlier, you worked at the Vanderbilt Marriott from 2005 to 2010, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, you testified that you had worked at a hotel in Austin, Texas before moving here. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, that hotel, you mentioned you were working for Marriott International. Did Marriott International own the hotel in Austin, Texas?
No, sir, but Marriott International managed the hotel.
And how long did you work at that hotel?
I worked there from 1989 to 1994, so approximately 5 years.
And what was your position when you left there?
I was the front desk manager at the time when I left there.
And when you moved to Nashville, which property did you come to?
I worked at I was hired. I received a transfer with Marriott International to work at the Marriott at the airport here in town.
And was that also a property that was managed by Marriott International?
Yes, sir.
And what was your position there at the Marriott at the airport?
When I was hired there, I was brought in as the executive housekeeper or the housekeeping manager. I worked there for about 7.5 years, and during that time, I moved up to catering sales, and I became one of the event managers in the sales and catering office.
And did you work at another hotel between the Marriott at the airport and coming to the Vanderbilt Marriott?
I did. In 2001, I left the airport Marriott, and I moved from Marriott International to the franchise side, and I worked at the Franklin Marriott in Cool Springs.
And in that property, when you say you're moving to the franchise side, are you actually working for the independent owner of the hotel?
An independent management company, yes, sir. They were not managed by Marriott International. They were managed by another management company that ran hotels.
And that would be a company similar to what Windsor does for the National Marriott, or did for the National Marriott.
Yes, sir.
And what was your position at the Franklin Marriott?
When I started there, I was hired as an event manager. Shortly thereafter, I was moved to catering sales and became a catering sales manager for 2 years. And then after that, I moved over back to the front office as the front office manager, where I worked there for 2 years.
And then you came from the Franklin Marriott and to the Nashville or the Marriott Vanderbilt, correct?
Yes, sir.
And if I understand your testimony correctly, you started out as the executive housekeeper?
Yes, sir.
Is that kind of like the head of housekeeping?
It is the head of housekeeping, yes, sir.
And then you transitioned into the director of operations, correct?
Yes, sir.
And was that a promotion?
Yes, sir.
What divisions did the department of, you referenced a rooms division. What did that entail when you became director of operations?
Because most of my experience was in the front office area and in housekeeping, I was put in that position because of all my experience in the rooms division, but because of my leadership skills and my leadership credentials, I was asked to kind of oversee the food and beverage side as well and work in tandem with the executive chef who oversaw food and beverage.
So is it fair to say that you've had over 25 years experience in the hotel industry?
Unfortunately, yes, sir.
Okay. You were asked a lot of questions by Mr. Kennard about standards in the industry. Have you ever heard the term reasonable care?
Yes, sir.
What does reasonable care mean to you?
To me, it means exercising common sense and providing a certain level of care that is considered an expectation by the average person.
And is that the standard that you have applied in your 25 years of industry experience?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree that Marriott International is one of the leading brands in the hotel lodging industry?
It is, yes, sir.
Would you say it's one of the industry leaders?
It is. It's being challenged by Hilton, but yes, they still
Okay, I
are.
thought you were going to say Holiday Inn. We know you're a Holiday Inn guy now.
Yeah, we are, yes, but no, we don't challenge Marriott.
In your experience working both as for Marriott International and on the franchise side, has it been your experience that Marriott International has a focus on quality?
Yes.
Does it focus on guest satisfaction?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever heard, in your experience with Marriott International, the term total guest experience?
Yes, sir.
Could you explain for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what that term or that phrase means in Marriott speak or Marriott International?
When we talk about total guest experience, we're talking about friendly staff being greeted at the door, smiles on every staff member, yes sir, no sir, my pleasure, making sure the room is comfortable, that they have clean linens and clean sheets, if they make a request for reservations, we'll take care of a reservation for them. We'll park their car for them and make sure it's brought back in the same shape, if not better, than it was when we received it. They'll get a great meal if they order from room service or the restaurant, that they'll have a great visit if they go to the bar, and that they leave feeling that they were treated like family by our hotel staff.
Now, is providing a safe environment part of a total guest experience?
It is, but it's behind the scenes. We don't expect our guests to see security at the Vanderbilt Marriott at the time.
Is guest security the only component of providing a total guest experience?
It is not the only component, no sir.
Now earlier we were talking a little bit about property management companies. In your 25 years of experience in the industry, is it uncommon for hotels to be run by a property management company?
No sir.
In your experience working both for and with Marriott International, did Marriott International require the same type of focus on quality and total guest experience that it had in its hotels that it itself was managing, and those that it lent its brand to through a franchising agreement?
The standards were the same, whether you were a franchise or you're a Marriott managed hotel.
So let's talk a little bit about your time at the Vanderbilt Marriott. My understanding, I kind of understand what an executive housekeeper is, but could you explain for the jury what that is?
The executive housekeeper oversaw the day-to-day operations of the housekeeping staff, from breaking out the room assignments to making sure that we had plenty of linen and chemicals for cleaning and switching out the dirty linen. We were responsible for scheduling, for payroll, ordering supplies, I think I mentioned that, making sure that we had enough staff every day to take care of our guest needs and our guest rooms.
And how many housekeepers, housemen, and other employees did you supervise as the executive housekeeper?
I believe at that particular time I was supervising between 25 and 30 staff members.
And what other departments within the hotel does housekeeping interact with on a daily basis?
They interacted with essentially every department in the hotel. They would clean the offices, we would clean the public space. We wouldn't typically clean the food and beverage restaurant and the bar because they had their own cleaning staff, but they would see everybody in the hotel from the moment they arrived to the moment they left.
And when you became the director of operations, did you maintain supervision over the housekeeping department?
Indirectly, we hired a new executive housekeeper and he reported to me.
And then did you also take over a supervisory role over the front desk?
Again, the same situation. There was a front office manager that reported to me. Prior to us creating a director of operations position, each of us reported to the general manager, and we found it necessary to have somebody that those areas could report to that were indirectly reporting to the general manager.
And the general manager during your time at the Nashville Marriott at Vanderbilt was Brian Chakowski, correct?
During my time with Windsor Capital and with Lighthouse Lodging, yes, sir. He was not the general manager when I first was hired on by Interstate.
And unfortunately, Mr. Chakowski passed away a couple years.
Yes, sir.
Can you give the jury a little bit of an understanding of kind of the clientele that the Vanderbilt Marriott catered to?
It catered to individuals who were well educated, who had good jobs. They were doctors, lawyers, businessmen, people who may be perceived as being affluent. They drove nice cars, lived in, I guess, I would assume, lived in nice neighborhoods based on their, observing them, because we knew they spent lots of money. Our rooms were not on the economy side, so a person like myself probably couldn't afford to stay there, but we had good rates that guests were willing to pay to stay on the edge of the Vanderbilt campus.
And that association with Vanderbilt campus, did that also bring in sports teams?
It did, especially during basketball and baseball season. Because we housed the Vanderbilt football team, we were under contract not to book another opposing team against them because we housed them. But during baseball, track, and basketball season, we typically housed other sports teams other than Vanderbilt. And
going back to 2008, did you have any VIPs that stayed there in that year?
During the time that I was there, we had a number of VIPs stay at the hotel. I remember Diana Ross staying with us. Coach Calipari and University of Kentucky stayed with us. And of course, among UK fans, he's a celebrity. So yes, but we had several celebrities stay with us during my time there.
And then in 2008, Senator McCain stayed there during the presidential cycle, correct?
Yes, so Senator McCain and his wife stayed with us, and I had the pleasure of working with Secret Service before and during his visit.
And at any time during Mr. McCain's visit, did Secret Service raise any security issues regarding regarding the property?
There were no security issues raised by Secret Service before, during, or after the visit.
Now, there were a lot of questions in your direct about standards. Have you ever heard of a standard of operation?
We had standard SOPs, standard operating procedures. Yes, sir.
Okay. And are those policies, SOPs, things that are created and mandated by Marriott International?
They are mandated by the flag that you fly, required to abide by the SOPs outlined by that brand.
And then there's also something called an LSOP. What is that?
That would be a local standard of operating procedures.
What's the difference between the two?
I'm sorry. The hotel sometimes would find a need to have an operating procedure that may not be covered by the brand, or that may need to be stricter than the brand as it applied to that specific hotel.
So that could be something where the hotel is going above and beyond even what Marriott International requires, correct?
Yes, sir. Marriott was willing to let a hotel have an LSOP if it met or exceeded their standard, but it could not be less than their standard.
And it could also an LSOP could also encompass something like a site-specific issue, such as a fire evacuation plan.
Yes, sir.
Talked a little bit about the requirements of these SOPs and brand standards. How did Marriott International know if the Vanderbilt Marriott was meeting those standards?
We would have quality assurance audits. We call them the QAs, and they could be anywhere from 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 14 months, depending on the scheduling of the hotel. And they would evaluate the hotel on cleanliness, on condition, on brand standards, and guest satisfaction.
Would you be provided with a report after Marriott International conducted its inspection?
Yes, sir. We received a report that we could print up and share with the staff.
And was there any type of grading system in that report?
Yes, sir, there was. The highest score was the green zone, and the lowest score was the red zone.
And was there any significance to those if you got a green versus a red?
If you received a green zone, you were considered an excellent example of a Marriott property, and you were considered part of the. You were considered an elite hotel, which meant that a lot of hotels did not meet the green zone. The contrary, if you're a red zone hotel, that means you're in danger of losing your flag unless you start meeting the brand standards as far as cleanliness, condition, and the operation of the hotel.
Your Honor, I have here what I'd like to mark as Exhibit 4 for identification purposes. May I approach the witness?
Can I see a copy?
I've got a copy for you. Mr. Strachan, have you seen this document before?
Yes, sir. I was quite proud of this document. Yes, sir.
What is this document?
This is the results of our quality assurance audit from June of 2008.
As the Director of Operations at that time, would this have been something that you would have reviewed as part of your employment?
Yes, sir. In fact, part of my goals was to ensure that we had an excellent quality assurance audit.
Your Honor, at this time I'd like to admit that as Exhibit 4. And may I publish that to the jury, Your Honor? I'm going to do it with the Elmo. If we can get it to work.
Which column you think can you refer to again?
Thank you.
And could you indicate to the jury what the date of this report is?
In the upper right-hand corner, underneath the Marriott logo, it was dated June 26, 2008, I believe.
And to your knowledge, would this have been the QA inspection done closest in time to the events involving Ms. Andrews in September of 2008?
Yes, sir. This would have been done just a few months before ESPN stayed in the hotel. Yes, sir.
And so you see underneath here that there's a list of categories, correct?
Yes, sir.
And these would be the things that Marriott International is grading the hotel upon, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you have a total possible score, which is what you would get if you knocked it out of the park, correct?
Yes, sir. The total possible score was 1,391. It's on the second page.
And then on each individual category, there's a total possible points, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then in the next column over to your right, you have the total points that you actually earn, correct?
The second to the end, yes, sir.
Okay. And then they give you a percentage, how well you did.
Yes, sir.
And if we were to flip to the second page there, I apologize to you, Jim. Might be a little crooked. What was the overall score that the Vanderbilt Marriott got in June of 2008?
Out of a possible 1,391 points, we received 1,310 points, or 94% satisfaction.
And could you draw on the screen like you did earlier with Mr. Kennard where that 94% is, please? And you'll see underneath there, and I just messed you up, that there's some colors. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
And what do those colors indicate?
Those are the colors that I was referring to, green being the highest, red being the lowest. There were intermediate levels. Green was 93 to 100%, clear, which was a satisfactory score, 87 to 92. Yellow, which meant you could be in danger, 85 to 86. And a failing score was basically considered a 0 to 84.
And could you circle on here what score or what color 94% fell in?
Circle it?
Yes, sir. And that would be green, sir?
Yes, sir.
And you said that's an elite status?
That was considered elite status, yes, sir.
You'll flip with me back to the front page. Is there a score provided for security on this form?
There is, yes, sir.
And what did the hotel do score-wise on security in June 2008?
Well, there's actually two scores there. It was under the category of safety and security. And under life safety, we scored 100%, and under security, we scored 100%.
And that's a full 39 out of 39 on security, correct?
Under security, yes, sir.
During your time at the Vanderbilt Marriott, how well did the hotel typically do on these QAs from Marriott International?
When I first started working there, we were typically a clear zone hotel. Our goal was to become a green hotel, green being an elite hotel. So when I was promoted to Director of Operations, that responsibility was tasked to me to get us from the elite from the clear status to the green status and become an elite hotel.
And were you able to do that?
I was, yes, sir.
And were you able to do that for consecutive testing periods?
I believe, yes, sir. I think this one and the following one, I believe we got green zone. I think we were green up until the time that I departed the hotel.
I'd like to shift gears now and talk a little bit. Because you were the Director of Operations, I think we mentioned earlier that you oversaw the front desk, correct?
Yes, sir, indirectly, but yes, I did they were under my umbrella, yes, sir.
And because of that, are you familiar with the process in which the Nashville Marriott, the actual hotel, handled reservation requests?
I had a pretty good understanding, yes, sir.
In 2008, could a guest requesting a reservation at the Vanderbilt Marriott call a 1-800 number with Marriott International?
Yes, sir.
Could they also call the hotel directly, meaning actually call a 615 number and get someone on West End at the hotel?
Yes, sir.
What would happen if they called the hotel directly?
Typically, when they asked to book reservations, we would transfer them to the 1-800 number with Marriott.
And so although they're calling the hotel, the practice and procedure at the hotel was to then transfer that caller to Marriott International call centers, correct?
Yes, sir.
And was there any practice in place as to whether that caller, potential guest, would know whether they were speaking with the hotel still or a reservation center?
No, sir. The standard was that when we transferred the call from the hotel to reservations, on the reservation display, it would show which hotel it was being transferred from, and they would answer it as if they were representing that specific hotel.
What was the purpose of having the hotel being able to route reservation calls to Marriott International?
Well, it served multiple purposes. We had dedicated people who could answer reservation questions, who could spend as much time with the guests as they wanted to book the reservation, answer any questions they might have about the hotel or the location. And it also allowed the front desk staff time to spend with our customers there at the hotel, because we always preach that we needed to make sure that we took care of our customers at the front desk rather than answering a phone call and making a guest at the front desk have to wait.
So if I were to call in 2008 to the Vanderbilt Marriott and ask to make a reservation, would I be transferred to the call center at Marriott International?
That would be typically how we would handle the call, yes sir.
If I wanted to call the Nashville Marriott and just want to add an extra night to my reservation, would I be transferred to the call center as well?
Typically, unless it was a slow night, in which case the front desk or the operator may say, well, I can assist you with that, but typically be transferred to reservations. Was
that a service that the hotel was paying Marriott International to perform?
Yes, sir. Well, that was part of our, I guess, our franchise agreement that we were billed for every call that they handled and every reservation they booked.
Now, during your time at the front desk, did you ever come into contact with what's been called the Pure system?
No, sir, I never did.
Do you know what the Pure system is?
I have a vague understanding of it now, yes, sir.
Okay, and what's your vague understanding?
My understanding of it is that it's the system that Marriott Reservations uses when they book the reservations.
So that's not something that the hotel itself would use?
No, sir.
During your time at the Vanderbilt Marriott, did you ever have access to the Pure system?
No, sir. In fact, I don't believe I even heard the term until after I left.
Are you familiar with the PMS system?
Yes, sir, the property management system.
And what is that?
That's the computer system that we use at the front desk and in housekeeping and in the operator station and at your service to pull up reservations and information on our guests.
Can it be used, is it the system that's used to check in a guest?
It is. It's a system used to check in a guest, to check out a guest, and it actually contains the reservation information that allows us to check people in and out.
And are you familiar with what's the Marcia system?
Yes, sir. That is the old reservation system that my understanding was that was the reservation system that they were using at Reservations. I did not realize they had migrated over to the Pure system.
When a reservation was made by Marriott International at one of its call centers, how would the hotel become aware of it?
There was an interface between the two systems, and we would have to conduct what we called, I guess, a P&L, or we would have to tell the system to download the information into the PMS system. The property management system could only hold so much information, so it was never just dumped right in the system because that would be too many reservations in the computer system at one time. So typically 3 days out we would download those reservations into the system unless it was a specific reservation that needed to be pre-blocked. Then we might migrate it over to the property management system sooner than 3 days, or rather than later. But typically we would download those reservations in about 3 days prior to those arrivals.
And in the context of a reservation, is there a difference between a guarantee on a reservation and a request?
We had challenges with that, but yes, sir. A guarantee was when reservations could tell by our inventory that we had that specific room type, and they would guarantee a room or a room type. If that room type was sold out, for instance, football weekend, we might have a lot of double bed requests, and we can only accommodate so many. They'd make the request for a double room, but we wouldn't be able to confirm it because the inventory was showing we were out.
So you could have a guarantee for a double room if it was available, but a request for a double room if that inventory was not available.
Correct. Yes, sir.
And so what would occur, or what was the hotel required to do if they received a reservation that had a guarantee for a room type?
We were required to provide that guest with that room based on their reservation because they were guaranteed that room type.
And that room type could be a king non-smoking.
Yes, sir.
It could be a suite.
Yes, sir.
Or it could be a double bed.
2 double beds, yes, sir.
2 double beds. Double bed.
Yeah, double, yes, sir.
And then as far as a request, would something like an adjoining or a connecting room be a request?
Yes, sir.
Could feather-free be a request?
Those were requests, yes, sir.
A crib or a rollaway?
Yes, sir.
And those are things that the hotel would try to accommodate, correct?
Yes, sir, because we only had a finite number of rollaways in the hotel or cribs in the hotel, and if it was a high demand weekend, we could not guarantee that every guest would receive that specific type.
What is the Marriott Rewards program?
That's their frequent guest program, much like a frequent flyer program. Marriott has a rewards program where guests receive points for their visits when they stay at a Marriott property.
Does it provide members with any additional benefits other than just accumulation of points?
Based on your level, if you were above the club level, yes, sir.
And so what would occur, or what was the hotel required to come in who had a reservation?
That was discouraged, yes, because that we'd be paying them money to relocate them.
Okay. And then in addition to the rewards program, did the Vanderbilt Marriott have a concierge level?
Yes, sir. We had, I believe, at that time, we were utilizing two of our floors as concierge. It's very possible at that time we had 3 concierge levels because of the demand.
And what were the benefits of a concierge floor?
Concierge, the benefits, every guest on the concierge level had access to the concierge lounge, provided complimentary breakfast. In the morning, they also had hors d'oeuvres and appetizers. In the evening time, we would host a general manager reception every Wednesday night. At the hotel, the sheets, we would triple sheet the beds, and there were extra amenities like shower gel and bathroom amenities that were not provided in the standard room.
And did the lounge also have other amenities such as a TV or periodicals that you could read?
Yes, sir. There was a seating area where guests could relax in an informal setting. They could also, if they wanted to use it during the daytime, they could access the lounge during the day to do computer work or to have one-on-one meetings and that sort of thing.
Now earlier you mentioned a term, and I want to come back to that term, pre-blocking. Are rooms for reward members, or I'm sorry, I went back up, are reservations for reward members at the Nashville Marriott in 2008 pre-booked?
Pre-blocked?
Pre-blocked, yes.
It was our standard to block all of our gold and platinum members. On a busy night or a sold-out night, we would also pre-block guarantee rooms so that there was no chance of not having the right room to a guaranteed reservation.
And would that be especially so for individuals who had booked a room on the concierge floor?
It would be, again, based on if it was a high-demand weekend or a high-demand day, yes, we'd pre-block the rooms.
And you're talking about guaranteed room type. You're talking again about that king, if they requested a king non-smoking, that they're getting a king non-smoking.
Yes, sir, and if they booked on concierge, then they were getting a concierge level room that was non-smoking king.
Would the hotel, in a situation like that, pre-block a rewards member who had a guaranteed king in a 2-queen room?
No, sir, not without the guest permission.
Would that typically upset reward members in your experience?
That would upset pretty much any guest that was guaranteed one room type and we provide them with another.
And as part of as director of operations and in your past experience as a front desk manager, Are you also familiar with the check-in procedures, actual procedures that agents go forward with when someone comes in to check in?
Yes, sir.
Was there any training back in 2008 for front desk agents?
Yes, sir.
And was that training, did that training involve some computer-based training?
Initially, we would do computer-based training to learn the PMS system. Because it was an older system, we would actually sit them in the back and they would just do online training. And then once they finished the PMS training, then they would have one-on-one training with a trainer to learn the operations at the front desk, how to answer phones, how to check guests in, how to swipe credit cards, how to make a room key, a tour of the hotel. But the first step in their training process was to do the computer-based training for the property management system.
And that hands-on training, are they shadowing a more senior front desk agent?
Yes, sir.
Could they actually be shadowing with the front desk supervisor?
They could, based on the schedule. If we didn't have a seasoned front desk agent, then they would either shadow a supervisor or a manager. Yes, sir.
I'm sure most everyone in this room has been through the check-in procedure, but I would assume during that the agent would confirm that the guest is receiving the room type that was guaranteed, correct?
Yes, sir.
They would confirm the rate that was being charged?
We didn't typically announce the rate, but we would circle the rate on the registration card.
Would they disclose the credit card information of the guest?
They would ask for a credit card at check-in.
Would they ever say the room number out loud?
No, sir. We were not supposed to say the room number out loud.
Was there training on that?
Yes, sir.
And the system that the agent is using is the PMS system, the property management system, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that system interfaces with Marcia, Marriott International's reservation system, correct?
To a certain degree, it would interface with Marcia. It was more one way, Marcia transmitting information to PMS, which is our property management system. Not a lot of information transmitted back to Marcia.
So the PMS system only received the information that was actually transmitted from Marcia, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so if there was an incomplete transmission, PMS would only get what came through, correct?
There were times that information would be cut off, yes, sir.
And there was no back channel way for someone through the PMS to get that additional information.
There were occasions where we could log into Marcia to see if we could get that information, but again, it depends on what information was transmitted from Marcia or attempted to be transferred from Marcia back to PMS.
And so if an individual came to the front desk and wanted to check in and their guaranteed room was not ready, and they had a room on the concierge floor, was it the practice in the hotel in 2008 to provide that guest with a concierge level key so that they could partake in the lounge while they waited for the room?
That would not be out of the ordinary. If they needed a place to wait for their room to be made ready, we would offer either a seat in the breakfast area or in the bar. If they'd like, we let them have access to the concierge lounge.
If this was a Thursday, a game day, mid-morning, how busy would the lobby be?
That particular day, because there's probably a lot of South Carolina fans in the hotel because they filled us up, I'm sure it was a rather busy area there in the lobby.
So if someone who was waiting on the room had some work they could do, would the concierge level provide them a nice quiet area to do that work?
It would, if they asked for it or if we suggested it.
And that was something common that the front desk agents would do for individuals that had booked a concierge level floor.
It would be a common practice, especially if somebody came in early and was looking for a quiet place to work.
Back in 2008, was there training provided to front desk agents on what to do if a customer had a complaint or there was a request that the agent didn't feel comfortable accommodating?
There were always situations where the guests were advised if they didn't feel comfortable taking care of a customer or didn't know how to take care of a customer, to get a supervisor or a manager.
Now, you said guest. Did you mean an agent could go get a manager?
I'm sorry, yes, an agent can get a manager, yes.
And that was training that was provided to all front desk managers?
Front desk staff, yes, sir.
Front desk staff. You could escalate it?
Yes, sir. They were always told that if there's a situation that they didn't know how to handle, that they were always encouraged to speak to a supervisor manager or get a supervisor manager to try to reconcile the issue.
So we talked a little bit about the front desk end of it. It seems like you've got a little more experience in housekeeping end, correct?
Probably equal experience in both.
Well, let's talk about the other half of that equation then. What process did the housekeepers go through each day in the hotel?
The way we broke out the house, the house being the hotel, we would, the majority of the housekeepers had assigned sections, which meant that they would work on a specific floor. Based on seniority, typically the people who had seniority had the preferred floors. Our most experienced housekeepers typically worked on the concierge level because that was our highest level of guest contact. So, but the majority of the staff would have assigned sections, and we'd break out the rooms. They would get their boards. Right before they went upstairs, we would print up a vacant dirty list so they could start marking which rooms are vacant on their board so they could start cleaning rooms. The old way of cleaning rooms was to start at one end of the building and go all the way down the other end of the building, but we found that really delayed the check-in process because guests be waiting all day for a room that may have been sitting vacant all morning, but because they were making their way from one end of the building to the other, it just sat vacant. So we changed that process to where the housekeeper would go from point A to point B and back to point A, depending on vacant rooms, to get the rooms cleaned as soon as possible so the front desk would have those rooms for check-in.
How would the housekeepers know while they're up on the floor whether another room has just come open?
The floor supervisor was responsible for continually checking a vacant list. We called it a vacant dirty list, and they would print up a new vacant dirty list and go let the housekeepers know that the rooms are vacant. A majority of the time, the housekeeper would beat them to it, because the housekeeper, if they heard any activity in the hallway, would step out in the hallway to see if a guest was leaving, and if they saw a guest with their luggage, they would look and see what room they were coming from, and if they saw that was one of their checkouts, they would hit that room next.
About what time in the morning would housekeeping start hitting floors?
Monday through Friday, they hit the floors at 8 o'clock.
And about what time in the afternoon or evening would most floors get done?
Typically the housekeepers on a full board would be done by 4:30.
So you would have a housekeeper on a given floor from 8 in the morning till 4:30 in the evening, correct?
Yes, sir. And the way the hotel was configured, we typically had on a sold out day, we would have 2 or 3 housekeepers on each floor.
And those housekeepers, from what I understand, are trained that if they hear noise in the hallway or something, they're going to check to see if another room's come open.
Typically, yes.
And in fact, the video that Mr. Kennard showed you, there was a housekeeping cart in the middle of that hallway, was there not?
There was only one housekeeping cart on that floor, yes, sir.
Okay. But that meant that somebody was up there cleaning.
That meant at least one person was there, yes, sir.
And during the day, as rooms become available, is housekeeping communicating with the front desk to update them on their available inventory?
The supervisor was responsible for checking the rooms. Now, we did have housekeepers that were self-senioring, and by that I mean they inspected their own rooms and would punch their own rooms in. Those were usually our most seasoned housekeepers, and typically people on the concierge level were those type of housekeepers that would punch their own rooms in. But if there was a sense of urgency because somebody was waiting for a room, a supervisor might go up and check and see if a room's ready for the front desk to check somebody in.
And so your most seasoned housekeepers would be the ones that are assigned to the concierge floor, correct?
Typically, yes, sir.
And Mr. Kennard's left his board up here. That 10th floor there was a concierge floor, correct?
Yes, sir, and that was the floor that had the concierge lounge, yes, sir.
Okay, and that's the one in which you would have put one of your more senior housekeepers?
Yes, sir. Multiple housekeepers.
Now, other than housekeeping, would there be other employees that were present on a floor throughout a day?
Throughout the day, we could have engineers on the floors. We could have room service attendants on the floors. Hotel management doing room tours. If we were doing a site visit, a manager could be walking the floor. We had anywhere from 2 to 3 floor supervisors walking the floors continuously during the day, inspecting rooms, checking on housekeepers. We had housemen helping strip rooms, and by that I mean stripping the beds, taking the dirty linens off the beds and removing the dirty linen and depositing it down the linen chute. There was always activity up and down the hallways.
And that would be from 8 in the morning, sometimes earlier, until late that evening, correct?
Yes, sir.
And were all of these individuals trained to report any suspicious activity that they may see on a guest floor?
Yes, sir. Part of our training during orientation, we always discussed that it was everybody's responsibility to ensure our safety and our guest safety. And they were told that if ever they saw a suspicious guest or a suspicious person walking down the hallways, that they could close the door behind them, lock themselves in a room, and dial 0 and ask for help.
I want to shift gears. You were asked some questions in your direct about the telephones. Where was the restaurant in the hotel in 2008?
At that time, the restaurant was on the 2nd floor.
And where was the bar?
The bar was immediately adjoining the front desk on the 1st level.
And you were asked a question about what a house phone is. In the hotel industry, what does a house phone refer to?
A house phone is considered a public phone that any guest can use to call the operator, or if they know the room number, they can dial a room number.
And what is there a employee phone that's different than a house phone?
We had phones in the for instance, at the front desk, the phones had displays. In all the offices, the phones had displays.
And that would be an LCD display?
Yes, sir.
And so if you got a call from someone, you could pick up the phone and the display would show from where the call's from?
Yes, sir.
It's just caller ID?
Caller ID, yes, sir.
Now, at the hostess stand at the restaurant, was there a phone there in 2008?
Yes, sir.
Would that have been a house phone or an LCD employee phone?
I believe at that time it would have been an LCD employee, a back of the house phone, yes, sir.
One that showed the room number on it, or an outside call number if it was an outside call?
Yes, sir.
What would be the reasons why you would have a phone like that at a hostess stand at a restaurant?
Typically, the restaurant would book reservations, especially for busy nights, and it would be important for them to know if it's an outside caller, if it's coming down from a guest room. We were also trained to be sure to use the guest name when answering the phone. So if we saw that Mr. Smith was calling us, "Thank you for calling the restaurant, Mr. Smith. How can I assist you?"
Is it part of providing some of that total guest experience that we talked about earlier?
Yes, sir. It's considered a touch point where we use the guest name.
And in fact, Marriott International SOPs require that you use guest names.
Yes, sir. At the front desk especially, but any opportunity we had to use the guest name was considered a touch point where we, again, improved the guest experience.
Would there be periods of time in which a hostess, in doing his or her job at the front, a host or a hostess, would be required to be away briefly from the host desk?
Yes, sir. Typically there may have been only one host or hostess working, and if they were seeing a guest, they would actually be stepping away from the hostess stand to seat a guest.
In your 25 years of working in a hotel, is that uncommon?
No, sir, that is not uncommon.
I'd like to shift. Mr. Kennard asked you about your role in the FBI's investigation after the incident involving Ms. Andrews came to light. You recall those questions?
Yes, sir.
At the time that you learned of this incident, did you think it was important to find all the information that you could about what had occurred?
Yes, sir. It was. I felt like it was on us to provide every bit of information that we could provide a year after it happened. Yes, sir.
And did y'all provide, you and then the hotel and your GM provide everything that y'all could find that you thought relevant to the incident that's alleged to have occurred?
The FBI provided us with a list of a wish list of every bit of information that they wanted, and it was up to us to provide as much of the wish list as we could at that time.
And as part of that investigation, did you review documents regarding Mr. Barrett's stay at the hotel back in September of 2008?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'd like to mark for identification Exhibit 5. May I approach the witness, Your Honor? Sure. Yes, ma'am. Mr. Strachan, have you ever seen this document before?
Yes, sir.
What is this?
This is a screenshot of a reservation out of guest history.
And as part of your assistance in complying with the request by the FBI, did you have a chance to review this document?
Yes, sir.
I'd have, Your Honor, at this time I'd move this be Exhibit 5. I'd like to publish it to the jury. Now, how do you obtain a form like this after a guest is checked out?
Typically, to go into guest history, only a certain individuals at the hotel would have access to guest history in PMS, which is our property management system. Typically, the front office manager and myself, the director of operations, would have access with our logins to look in guest history.
And so this guest history would be something that's pulled from the PMS system?
Correct. It's a very basic. It's very basic information out of the PMS system, showing just basic information of a reservation.
So this would not be information that you pulled from Marriott International, correct?
No, sir. We pulled this on property.
And the date in the top right corner, that would be the date that you actually pulled this information, correct?
Yes, sir. That's the day I pulled the information and did the screenshot.
So in a little bit, she's having a hard time saying what's going on.
All right. And if you look in the top right corner, and I'll kind of indicate where you're going, creation date, and it says September 2nd, 2008. What is that?
Typically, that would be the day the reservation was made.
And then on the left, the number 2 here. Well, don't want to help me out here. What's the last arrival?
That would have been the arrival date.
And that would have been September 4th, 2008?
Yes, sir.
And so y'all would have pulled the reservation from Marcia on the 2nd, and then this is a reservation for Mr. Barrett, and he checked in on the 4th, correct?
Yes, sir. According to the reservation, yes, sir.
And you see number 5 here? Room type. What is an NKNC?
That was a non-smoking room with a king bed on the concierge level.
Okay. And then if you go down to the special request, what is a K1, 17 here?
A K1 is a guaranteed king.
And then if you see these, do you recognize this handwriting that's underneath here?
It looks like Brian Chakowski's handwriting.
Okay, and that was the former GM, correct?
Yes, sir.
And if you'll look through here, are these just breaking down what these special request codes are?
Yes, sir.
So an M1 means that Mr. Barrett was a Silver Rewards member, correct?
Yes, sir.
You already talked about a K1, that's a guaranteed king. GTD would be guaranteed, correct?
I'm sorry, sir?
GTD.
Yes, guaranteed. Yes, sir.
Okay. A1 is adjoining, correct?
Yes, sir. An adjoining request.
C1 is a connecting request.
Yes, sir.
And so there we have our difference between a guarantee and a request, correct?
Yes, sir. We never guaranteed connecting or adjoining rooms.
Now, anywhere on this PMS history, is the statement, the abbreviation, or other express indication that Mr. Barrett requested to be next to Miss Andrews?
No, sir.
Now, you didn't have any actual involvement in checking in Mr. Barrett, did you?
No, sir.
Do you know who did?
I believe Jacqueline Dement.
And was she a former front desk agent?
She was.
Now, do you know in comment number 18 here, it says do not move. Do you know, as you sit here today, when that was added to the PMS system?
No, sir. There's no way, from the property level, there was no way for us to know where that comment came from after the fact.
Based on your experience as the Director of Operations, who would know what is communicated and is not communicated from Marriott International to the hotel? Someone at Windsor or someone at Marriott International?
The person that would have the greatest ability to decipher a past reservation would be somebody who knows the system, and that'd probably be somebody with Marriott International.
It wouldn't be you.
It would not be me, no, sir.
You see here on the, I can't get there, we go. On number 4, complex/room, and then it has 1049. You see that, sir?
Yes, sir.
And on the diagram up there, that's where Mr. Kennard is indicating and where Mr. Barrett ended up, correct? 1049.
Yes, sir.
What type of room is 1049?
In what sense? I'm sorry, sir.
What type of bed does it have?
It would have been a king-size bed.
Are you sure about that?
Well, based on the history, it indicates that it's a king-size bed. I would assume that that was the room type based on what it was saying in history.
Okay. I'd like to mark for identification, what would number 6? Have you seen this document before, Mr. Schatcher?
I believe I do. Yes, sir.
What
yes,
is
sir.
this?
This is another screenshot of what appears to be the second part of this reservation out of guest history.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd like to admit this as number 6, published to the jury. Now this looks very similar to Exhibit 5, correct?
Very similar, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, under number 4, complex room, it's listed 1049 again, correct?
Yes, sir.
What's the creation date for this?
This shows it was created the day of his arrival, the 4th of September.
So in Exhibit 5, it was created on the 2nd, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that would have been when the PMS system actually pulled that information from Marcia.
Yes, sir.
And then this second folio, for the same room number, also for Mr. Barrett, was created when he checked in, correct?
It appears so, yes, sir.
And what is the room type listed for 1049?
It was changed to a non-smoking room with 2 double beds, concierge.
Having reviewed this, do you have an understanding of what the room type was for 1049?
Well, it creates a dilemma because one shows it's a king and one shows it's 2 double beds, but in recollection, I don't recall what actually the bed type was.
If 1049 contained double beds, would that have been the room type that Mr. Barrett had guaranteed on his reservation?
No, sir.
Why would there be 2 different folios for the same room under the same name?
The only explanation that I can come up with is the fact that because he was paying concierge rate, which more than likely was probably close to $239, we created 2 folios, one for one amount and one for another amount, so it was split between 2 bills.
So if he had his employer paying a part of his room and he paid the rest, he just split them?
Yes, sir.
Is that uncommon in the hotel?
That is not uncommon. A lot of times companies have per diems that they have to work within and will only be willing to pay a certain amount, and a lot of times customers are willing to pay the difference to stay in a nicer property.
So Mr. Barrett was a Marriott Rewards member, correct?
As evident by the information on the reservation, yes, sir.
He had booked a guaranteed king, correct?
Yes, sir.
Based on those facts and your understanding of how the Vanderbilt Marriott worked back in 2008, would the front desk have pre-blocked him into a 1049 if it was a non-smoking double queen?
No, sir.
I'd like to mark for identification exhibit number 7.
You know the jury is right?
Now would be a great time, Your Honor. Yeah.
All right, that's okay, that's it's okay.
supposed to do. Just a hand on that.
Go to the restroom.
I know he's just standing there.
I wanted to be like Larry, you can bounce the water. It can be waiting for him, that's fine. That's perfectly fine.
Just a tiny bit of it to clean up. You just gotta keep very what they're doing.
Hey, Devin. Hey, man. Good job. How are you? Good job. Case manager. Hey, Tom. How's it going? Hey, you looking good. Yeah, I know. It's early. Yeah. I've got the front loader week. Sit on the feedback next week. I do get then we got so your firm doing business? Well, they brought Rick in. Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. More than Marriott. Absolutely. Wow. Yeah. You're looking good. Thanks. Yeah. Good seeing you. Yeah, good luck. Good seeing you guys. Yeah. Hey, maybe I'll finally get Lincella paid. Do what now? Maybe I'll finally get Lincella paid and Tom Courts can get off my butt. That's right. See you. See you. I'm pleased to do that. Just keep them in. So. Temporary